The sun hung low over the cracked earth of Bitter Creek, a town so forgotten it barely clung to the map. Dust swirled in lazy spirals, kicked up by a dry wind that smelled of sage and trouble. A lone figure walked the empty street. His boots crunched on gravel. His hat, wide-brimmed and stained with years of sweat, shadowed his face. A faded duster coat hung loose over his lean frame, swaying with each measured step. No one knew his name. No one cared to ask. To the townsfolk peering from behind shuttered windows, he was just another drifter. Another soul chewed up by the frontier's teeth. Bitter Creek wasn't kind to strangers. It wasn't kind to anyone. The town belonged to the Barlow Gang, a pack of outlaws who ruled with iron and blood. Their leader, Amos Barlow, was a bear of a man with a laugh like a rattlesnake's hiss. His men hard-eyed killers with quick hands and no mercy lounged on the saloon porch, rifles across their laps. They watched the drifter approach. Their smirk said he wouldn't last the night. The drifter stopped outside the saloon. His eyes, sharp and gray like polished steel, scanned the men. They laughed, spitting tobacco into the dirt. One, a wiry man named Jake with a scar splitting his lip, called out, "Hey, stranger, you lost." The drifter didn't answer. He pushed through the saloon's swinging doors. The air inside was thick with smoke and the sour stink of whiskey. Conversations died. Eyes turned. The drifter walked to the bar, his spurs jingling softly. The barkeep, a nervous man with a sweat-soaked shirt, slid a glass toward him. "Whiskey's on the house, friend. Just don't stir up trouble." The drifter nodded. His voice was low, rough like gravel underfoot. "I'm not here for trouble." He took the glass, but didn't drink. Behind him, the doors swung open. Jake and two others sauntered in. Their boots thumped the floorboards. Jake leaned against the bar. Too close. "You got a name, stranger?" The drifter's eyes flicked to him, then away. "Don't need one." Jake's grin widened. His hand hovered near his pistol. "Around here, a man without a name is a man without a future." The drifter sipped his whiskey. Slow, deliberate. "You talk a lot," he said. Jake's face darkened. He opened his mouth, but a new voice cut through the room. "Enough." Amos Barlow filled the doorway. His shadow stretched long across the floor. He wore a black coat, a silver badge, pinned crookedly to his chest, a mockery of the law he'd driven out years ago. His eyes locked on the drifter. "You got business in my town." The drifter set his glass down. "Just passing through." Amos stepped closer. His hand rested on the ivory handle of his revolver. "Nobody passes through Bitter Creek without paying a toll." "Name your price." The drifter's voice was steady. Amos chuckled. "Everything you got." The drifter's eyes narrowed. "I don't pay thieves." The room went still. Jake's hand twitched toward his gun. The drifter didn't move. His hands stayed loose at his sides. Amos raised a hand, stopping Jake. "You got spine, stranger." "I like that. Stay out of my way, and you might live." He turned and walked out. Jake and the others followed, but their glares promised trouble. The barkeep leaned close. "You're a fool, friend." Amos don't let slights go unanswered. The drifter didn't reply. He left a coin on the bar and walked out into the dusk. The town was quiet now, but eyes watched from every corner. A woman stood by the general store, her dress patched and faded. Her name was Clara, a widow who'd lost her husband to Barlow's men. She watched the drifter with a mix of fear and hope. Something about him felt different. Dangerous, but not like the others. She didn't approach. Not yet. That night, the drifter took a room above the saloon. He sat by the window, cleaning a worn Colt revolver with a cloth. The gun was old but flawless, its barrel gleaming in the lamplight. He moved with the care of a man who knew his tools. His hands were steady, but his eyes were heavy, haunted. He didn't sleep. At dawn, trouble came. A scream tore through the street. The drifter was at the window in an instant. Below, Jake and two of Barlow's men dragged a boy, no older than 16, toward the town square. The boy's name was Tom, Clara's son. He'd been caught stealing bread from the gang's supplies. Clara ran after them, pleading. Jake backhanded her. She fell, blood on her lip. The drifter's jaw tightened. He strapped on his gun belt and stepped outside. The square was a circle of dirt ringed by scared faces. Jake had Tom on his knees, a pistol to the boy's head. Clara sobbed, begging. Amir stood nearby, watching with a cold smile. The drifter walked into the open. Let the boy go. Jake laughed. You again. This ain't your fight. The drifter's voice was calm. I'm making it my fight. Amos stepped forward. You're a dead man, stranger. Draw. The drifter didn't move. His eyes locked on Amos. I don't want to kill you, but I will, the crowd murmured. Jake's grin faltered. Amos spat, big words. Let's see if you can back them up. His hand flashed to his gun. The drifter was faster. 2 shots rang out, so quick they sounded like one. Amos staggered, blood blooming on his chest. He fell, eyes wide with shock. Jake fired wildly. The drifter's gun barked again. Jake dropped, a hole in his forehead. The third man ran. The drifter let him go. The square was silent. Clara rushed to Tom, pulling him close. The townsfolk stared, fear and awe in their eyes. The drifter holstered his gun. His face was unreadable. He turned to leave, but Clara called out, Who are you? He paused. Just a man, he said. He walked away. Whispers spread. The drifter wasn't just a wanderer. Some said he was a ghost. Others, a demon. The truth was darker. His name was Elias Kane, though no one in Bitter Creek knew it. Years ago, he'd been a lawman in Abilene, the best shot in the territory. He'd hunted outlaws with a badge and a purpose. But purpose died when his wife, Sarah, and their daughter were caught in a crossfire. Outlaws he'd been chasing took their revenge. Elias survived. They didn't. He buried his badge with them and walked away from the law. He drifted, carrying his guilt and his gun. He swore never to kill again unless he had no choice. Bitter Creek was testing that vow. By noon, the Barlow gang regrouped. The man who'd run, a weasel named Caleb, brought word to the others. They gathered at their camp outside town, a cluster of tents by a dry riverbed. The gang numbered 20, each man meaner than the last. Caleb told them about the drifter. He's just one man, Caleb said, but he's fast, too fast. The gang's new leader, a cold-eyed killer named Vance, spat into the fire. Then we don't face him alone. We burn that town to ashen him with it. That night, the gang rode into Bitter Creek. Torches lit their path. The townsfolk barricaded their homes, but wood and hope wouldn't stop bullets. The drifter watched from the saloon's roof. He'd seen this before. Towns torn apart. Innocents caught in the middle. His hand tightened on his gun. He couldn't walk away. Not this time. Clara found him in the shadows. You don't owe us nothing, she said. Why stay? Elias looked at her. His voice was soft, because I couldn't save them. Maybe I can save you. She didn't understand, but she saw the pain in his eyes. She nodded and slipped away to gather the townsfolk. Elias moved like a ghost through the streets. He knew the gang's kind. They'd hit the saloon first, then spread out to loot and kill. He set traps. Barrels of lamp oil rigged to spill. Loose boards on the boardwalk to trip horses. Anything to slow them down. When the gang arrived, chaos met them. A horse stumbled, throwing its rider. Oil spilled, catching fire from a dropped torch. Flames roared, cutting off half the gang. Vance cursed, firing into the dark. Where is he? Show yourself. Elias stepped into the street. Firelight danced on his face. I'm here. Vance's men opened fire. Elias moved, quick as a shadow. His gun spoke. One man fell, then another. The townsfolk, rallied by Clara, joined the fight. Old men with hunting rifles, boys with slingshots. They weren't warriors, but they were desperate. Elias was everywhere. His shots were precise, each one a life taken only when necessary. He didn't want to kill, but he didn't miss. Vance, wild with rage, charged him. "You think you can take my town?" Elias dodged a bullet and fired. Vance fell, clutching his chest. The remaining outlaws broke and ran. Dawn came slow. The town was scarred, but standing. Bodies lay in the dirt, most of them Barlow's men. The townsfolk gathered around Elias. Clara stepped forward. "You saved us. Why?" Elias looked at the horizon. His voice was barely a whisper. "I couldn't save my family. I had to save someone." He turned to leave. Tom called out, "You don't have to go." Elias shook his head. "I don't belong here." He mounted a horse and rode out. The townsfolk watched until he was a speck against the rising sun. Bitter Creek would rebuild. They'd tell stories of the drifter who came from nowhere and faced down hell. They'd never know his name, but they'd remember his eyes. Eyes that carried a past too heavy to share. Elias Kane rode on. The west was wide, and his ghosts rode with him. Somewhere out there, he'd find peace. Or he'd keep running,